Coming at you hotter than Cadril after a KC game. Colin Dom. It's the newest episode of Power Spike. Welcome, everyone. dGon alongside Dom and Jamada as we are breaking down in the middle of the first ever first stand tournament. And guys, yeah, like it's been a unique event. The overlay, the color scheme, these best of threes actually happening in a tournament, which was nice, but it's a single round robin. Tiebreakers, a little bit of lag on the stream. It's been an interesting endeavor so far here, Jamada.
Yeah, it's been very up and down. There's a bunch
Worse
of
than the
exciting shit
ups?
going on.
Wait, where are the ups?
If you're an APAC fan, there's been a bunch of ups, I think, for this
All right.
tournament. If you're a neutral, I think this has been a fucking fantastic tournament to watch. It's been really exciting. If you're a Western fan, yeah, this has been depressing as hell. But just said it how it is. But yeah, I agree. I think let's start the place that's most important. Yeah, the overlay. The overlay, man, it's been killing a lot of us. No, but yeah, fantastic. I think first half of this international tournament. I think first stand. A lot of people were very critical about like kind of the importance. I think people are still kind of in the air about whether they still want to consider it a Mickey Mouse tournament. But I think it's been fantastic to get a kind of a look in at our top teams right now across the world coming together to have mostly good showings. Again, if you're a Western fan, this has been a bit of a tournament. But yeah, dGon, it's been very fun so far.
Yeah. How's the coach shoes been, Dom?
Coasters have been good. But you know how I am, bro. I just gotta hit all the negativity just straight off the bat. Like I'm not gonna
There we
let
go.
this shit slide.
All right.
Obviously, the overlay is dog shit. So we don't even need to talk about like that too much. Everything's been said on that. I would say the Mickey Mouse portion of this is the format. Number one, like it feels super weird to have a 7-day tournament where the first 5 days are to create seeding and eliminate one team. Like that is 80% of the teams go through to playoffs and one team gets eliminated. So that's the first 5 days of the tournament. Well, people aren't latching onto here is that the most, if you follow what League of Legends esports has been for the last 15 years since the game's inception, if you understand how the priority of the regions normally goes, this is probably the best possible outcome where there's still some type of hope going into the last day that something could happen. In most situations, you're going to have the first day where if you're going to do the schedule like this and you have NA versus EU, first day, and China versus Korea first day, normally what it's going to be is like whoever wins the China versus Korea is going to be the 1 seed for the group stage, and whoever loses the Western matchup is going to be 3-4, most likely. I mean, obviously APAC, maybe they're competing now. Maybe that's going to be the person that's out. But in a lot of situations, going into like at the end of day 3, you'll already essentially know who's moving on. It'll be almost impossible for teams to qualify. For example, if KC would have lost on day 3, that's it. If they lost that match to Top Esports, they're actually just out. Like they couldn't even end up in a situation where they're tied with multiple 1-3s because Top Esports would have 2 wins, Hanwha Life would have 2 wins, and CFO and Team Liquid would end up having to play each other. So one of them is guaranteed 2 wins, and the loser would have the tiebreaker winning versus KC. So like the tournament could have been just like 2 days of just shit games that don't even matter because you already know what the seeding is going to be. Like Hanwha Life and Top Esports, if everything went like how things normally go, Hanwha Life and Top Esports would end up just being the 1 and 2 seeds, and it like doesn't really matter who they play 3rd and 4th. Like it's not like a huge advantage where it's like, oh, we get to play like CFO instead of Team Liquid. It's like both of them are just probably normally the number 1 seeds from LPL and LCK will just roll over those teams in best of 5s, and you'll just get like one best of 5 at the end. That'll be kind of hype. That'll be like your whole tournament. So it's Mickey Mouse because the format is ass. You have a situation where everyone's just hoping other teams lose. If you actually like do the math and you figure out what teams are hoping for, KC didn't need to win yesterday. What they need is they need Top Esports to lose and Team Liquid to lose. If Team Liquid loses the remainder of their games, like if they lost yesterday and they lose today, if Top Esports ended up losing to CFO, then KC would end up moving on. Like, that is what they're hoping for. They're hoping for other teams to lose as opposed to like being incentivized to win, which is like, I don't know. It just feels weird. It feels weird that like Team Liquid is hoping. Team Liquid is sitting there. They're hoping for CFO to lose, because if CFO loses and Top Esports wins, then they end up going through. KC sitting there. They're hoping for Top Esports to lose. Top Esports is sitting there hoping for TL to lose, because if TL loses, then Top Esports is automatically in regardless, because they hold the 3-way tiebreak. So it's like everyone's just hoping for other teams to lose in order to qualify, as opposed to like having to win, because only one team gets eliminated. So, like, if we did this format again, I think they would have to try to make the more important matches towards the end. So like the ones that should theoretically be closer would probably have to be towards the end. So you have like KC versus TL on the 5th day, where that could be like a decider. That's most likely going to be a decider. Or China versus Korea on the 5th day, because that's going to likely be a decider. And they would have to open up the tournament with like the matches that should be, you know, big favorites. Not saying that those will end up always going like that, but I feel like you can format it in a way, or you can schedule it in a way where at least there's more suspense built in. It feels like with the way that they did things with China and Korea and NA and EU playing on the first day, they just like blew their load on day one, and now it's just like they're fucking recharging the nut for the next 4 days.
Yeah, but wasn't that still part of the beauty and the surprise of KC beating Top Esports later on? Like, I feel like that kind of hopium for the blue wall wouldn't have happened if it was scheduled differently, I feel like. And also,
I mean, it wouldn't be hopium. What it would be is it would be like, oh yeah, sure, like, okay, KC is looking like better than Team Liquid. Can Team Liquid like upset KC? There would be more pressure on that game. Like, that game would be an even more hype game, because if TL wins, they would go on, and if TL loses, they would, you know, be out. So it would be like both teams playing in a game that matters, almost guaranteed in that situation, and the other situation where everything just goes, where like China and Korea just shit down everyone's throat like they always do, and you just are like waiting for the games that actually matter between the regions that are close.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of anything else. I think the other thing is, if you schedule the teams, like, I think what they don't want to do is schedule the teams that might play each other in the playoff day on the last day, where you basically run back to back. They play a best of 3, and then all of a sudden they play best of 5 again. So
which will
it,
most likely end up happening right now. This is what will most likely happen right now, because Team Liquid and Hanwha Life, like, if Top Esports, who are massive favorites against CFO, they win, then Team Liquid is going to lose to Hanwha Life. They're going to get the 4th seed, and they're going to play against Hanwha Life, who's the 1st seed, and that's going to be just so like, even if you did that logic, it's still wrong. Like, there's no way you can logic this into being like a good decision in a way to format the tournament.
So I think the only way you do that is if you thought it went LCK, LPL, LTA, LCP, Europe, or Europe LCP. Like, you know what I mean? I think if you seed it that way, and then it turns out, oh, we were wrong, CFO is actually really good. If it was Talon, you know, who knows? Maybe Talon, even though Talon's been good for a long time, I think that's the only way that they must have been thinking. And it turns out, oh, CFO snuck on in, and you know, Dago didn't.
I mean, I just think that they didn't care about any of this at all. I think that they didn't even consider it once, and they were like, "What's going to be like the biggest bang at the beginning? China versus Korea, NA versus EU. That's going to be like the thing that people want to watch. So we're just going to schedule those matches first, so that people want to watch the tournament, and then hopefully they linger throughout."
Yeah,
Sure.
I kind of agree with Dom there, but I think we've been blessed with the results to kind of give us a final day.
But it's a low percentage. It's a low percentage result, and that's, to me, like what triggers me.
That's what
about it.
bothers.
It's like the perfect situation for them to not get criticism over the format, but the format is dog shit, and we got lucky that it didn't end up ruining the entire tournament by KC beating Top Esports on day 3.
Sure. I think the part that does peeve me is like some of the tiebreaker rules. The fact we don't get like tiebreakers more than anything. I think losing that particular aspect, if we're gonna run like kind of a 1 round robin best of 3 setup, I would have liked some kind of like game deciding, like either mini series or like tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't even like how many people. I don't think even fans are sitting there and trying to, because like it actually takes some time to figure out, like going through all the different scenarios. Like on day 3, I had to sit on stream and be like, okay, like what are all the different possible scenarios with all the different like possible outcomes?
Yeah.
What are, like, I went into the rule book and I was like, what are the tiebreaker rules? Like, it's not even like obvious what the tiebreaker rules are at this point, because normally in other regions, for example, in LEC, on elimination games for the 8 seed, which is the, you know, when they do that
Top 8.
3 split format, whatever, and the top 8 move on and the bottom 2 don't move on. If teams are tied for 8th, if there's an elimination spot on the line, there is games played for the tiebreaker always. You cannot get through based off purely head to head and rules like this. So this is actually different, where you do get through based off head to head. You get through based off conditions. So the first condition is direct head to head. If there are 2 teams tied, the team that won versus the other team in the best of 3 moves on. The second condition is if if 3 teams are tied, it is the game score between the 3 teams. So in this situation, let's say this is why Team Liquid would be eliminated if Top Esports lose, assuming that they lose to Hanwha Life, is that Team Liquid is 2-3 in game score. Top Esports would be 2-2 are 2-2 in game score between KC, Top Esports, and TL. These are the 3 teams that you're doing the game scores between. And KC would be 3-2 in game score. So KC would be the 3rd seed. Top Esports would be the 4th seed. They would play against Hanwha Life in the first round. And Team Liquid would be the 5th seed and be eliminated because they were 2-3 because they lost that game to KC. Now, if all of the game scores are even, let's say everyone goes 2-2, 2-2, 2-2. Let's say Team Liquid just, in this scenario, Team Liquid 2-2's KC, or 2-0's KC, so they're 2-2 overall.
Basically.
Yeah. So pretty much every team is 2-2. Then it goes to overall, I believe it's overall game score of the entire tournament. And then if that is also equal, then it goes to game time. So this is like all the different like things that could happen. So like I don't know. I don't even think fans sit there and do all this shit themselves. Like, do they actually go and figure out like what the rules are in the rule book? I can tell most people don't know because when I ask chat, no one knows. Everyone gives me fucking wrong information. So I just have to go into the rule book and actually like figure out what the situation is.
I can tell you firsthand, working broadcast, like the big thing is that we always try to make it as simple as possible because we just get 1,000,001 questions if it's even remotely complicated. So
yeah,
no one knows like ever, especially if it's as down dirty as this.
Yeah. It felt like yesterday they weren't able to do it until today. Today it's pretty straightforward. It's TL beat Hanwha Life if you're a TL fan. If not, hope that Top Esports.
I mean, just imagine the case, because it is only 4 games being played. Imagine the case where every single team goes 2-2.
I know. I thought about that too. That's a fucking
and every
mess,
team goes 2-2, and everyone has an identical game score, and you literally seed the entire tournament and eliminate teams based off only game time. Like, that is a realistic thing that can happen.
Sure. Yes. But like what you were
saying
saying earlier with the schedule, that is such a tiny chance for that to happen. Like, what are you going to do what do you propose if that does happen? Everyone just plays best of ones against each other again, seeded best of ones because of game time?
I mean, I think that you do a format where this stuff just cannot happen. It's like the same way in Worlds this can't happen because it's Swiss stage, right? So you just beat teams and like you end up moving up if you beat teams. Like you beat a couple teams, you're in. You like there's seeding going. So what I would propose is that there's some level of seeding going into a tournament like this, because because the way that things are seeded going into first stand is that all teams are equal. We know that that LPL and LCK are not equal to the West, right? Like over the last 5-6 years, they're not equal to the West. So based off the previous, how they normally do it, based off the previous tournaments, they do a seeding 1 to 5, and then you end up doing like a small version of Swiss through that. Maybe like the team that wins Worlds gets like a bye in the first round, and then you do like a Swiss and you eliminate teams based off that, so that you actually get games played that matter, and you're actually like every single game has like some result that you actually care about to some degree, even if it is a seeding game or even if it is a game that's an elimination match. There's something on the line always, or there's something that you're actually looking forward to. Whereas here, like, I'm just sitting there and I hate having to ask myself, what does this mean every single time that like a team like yesterday, before KC, I'm like, okay, obviously if they win, it's good for them. But if they lose, does it actually matter? No, they're not eliminated because they have the head-to-head tiebreaker in like the 3rd iteration versus TL in the case of Top Esports also loses. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah. It's just so convoluted that I think that's, I mean, why should I need to sit here and explain this? Like, why would I be able to talk for 10 minutes about the format and all the flaws of it if it was not like convoluted? I'm not repeating myself. I'm not saying like the same thing multiple times. I'm just literally explaining what the rule book and how the format goes. So it's like all this is bad. This is just the first part of why I think it's a Mickey Mouse tournament. This is half of it. The other half of why I think it's a Mickey Mouse tournament is that they just did the biggest game change that they've had in the largest system change that I remember in League of Legends history, where they have been like, we will kill your family if you go to mid or top lane with 2 people level 1. Like, this is one of the craziest changes they've done. And this is like such a over force. I've never seen Riot put conditions in the game like this before that were so extreme. Normally the way they try to get rid of like lane swaps, like originally what they did to get rid of lane swaps is they're like, the turret has a little bit more armor, so it's like you can still go to other lanes, but like the turret is a little bit tankier, so if you just start hitting the turret, you're gonna be down like plates, so you won't kill the turret as fast, so that's like your loss, right? And that was enough to remove lane swaps for like 8 years. Like, we didn't see lane swaps for 8 years after that because people were like, oh yeah, that's just too big of a change. I've never seen like the fucking flashing text on your screen where it's like, you're doing something that we deem improper. It's like, get the fuck out of the lane, retard. It's like, okay, I guess I'm getting out of the lane, bro. Shit, my bad. And it's like, I don't know. It just seems so like ridiculous. So we tested teams based off 2v1s the entire split, right? The way teams got here is by being able to play a game that involved a heavy amount of 2v1s. I mean, I felt like there was more 2v1s than actual straight up lane phases. I guess we would have to check that to see if that's true, but it felt like there was an insane amount of 2v1s. And I mean, when I say 2v1s, I just mean lane swaps. There's been an insane amount of lane swaps. And then you go to the tournament and it's like, is Team Liquid actually the best North American team if there's no lane swaps? Like, is KC the best European team if there's no lane swaps? Is Top Esports the best LPL team if there's no lane swaps? Are they better than BLG if there's no lane swaps and Bin is laning 1v1 and you know, Crisp and Jackie Lover sitting there playing against Elk and on? Are they the best team in LPL? Like, it's so weird to have this tournament and then do the change. Like, why not do the lane swap changes after this tournament before the next split? Like, it doesn't make sense. So like, there's so many things that I just like look at this tournament where I'm like, it's fucking Mickey Mouse. Like, it is just Mickey Mouse tournament. And most of the games have not been close. Like, we haven't had like recently we've had the KC series where they ended up making it close by like winning a game, but most of the games have just been 2-0s in one direction. And it just like hasn't been like just a super entertaining tournament.
I will say, I think that generally, at least in recent years, right, have tried to stray away from like doing these big system changes before. Like, there's been like a very conscious like attempt to make sure they don't do that. I think that they felt some kind of internal pressure because of how much negative like community sentiment there was towards lane swaps. They felt pressure to have to do it before like first stand. But I am really surprised that they didn't just drop it on next patch, right? Afterwards. So I don't think there's really a good excuse other than they were just worried about like the entertainment value, which I guess we'll probably talk about when we get to Fearless also as well. Of lane swaps are like complicated to understand if you're not like tapped in. It's just it's not 2v2 lanings or like or 1v1 top laning. So
but I think that this is fake.
Average, I think it's fake too, but I think this is what Riot thinks, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to prioritize there with like letting that change happen on this patch for first stand.
I think
whether we like it or not.
Lane swaps are like a system where they're not always played the same way. And I think the iterations of lane swaps that we had were probably some of like the most entertaining versions of lane swaps we've ever had in the history of League of Legends. Most of the time it was just people splitting the map, like slow pushing turrets. These were like, you know, like based on where you start on the map, like if you're predicting lane swap or not, like your top laner's laning with your mid laner mid, then you're either going into a four-man dive or a 2-man hold. And normally like there was a decent amount of action in the games. So to be honest, the only reason I think that we're actually getting like higher kill games is the fact that they changed Ruinous Otacon to appear more in the game and we don't have the Voracious Otacon anymore. But it feels like we were getting a decent amount of action in the lane swaps. I think the idea that like lane swaps were, you know, these things where it's so boring and nothing's happening. Like, I just think that this was fake. You know, like this is just like a narrative that spawned because it's not normal League of Legends. But I don't actually think that what we're watching is what we watched with lane swaps was like I don't actually think the viewers know what they want. I think the viewers thought that, oh, we're going to get like 2v2 laning and it's going to be fucking sick because we're going to get to see so many like outplays and stuff like that. I don't think we're getting like more outplays right now than we were when we were getting like all the dive situations and people trying to outplay the dives under turret. Like, I think you're just getting different types of outplays. It's like Viper flash the headbutt. Crazy. But then also on the other side of things, you're like, it's Ashe Alistar or yeah, it's Ash Renata into fucking Alistar Jhin. Like it's like damn, like that's a pretty unplayable lane. Like it's not that interesting to watch like an Alistar lane into a Ash Renata. Like if you really know the conditions of the lane and how they're supposed to play out. So I think that this was like very fake. I was always somebody who thought that lane swaps were healthy for the game. I think that the added element of strategy. I mean, I originally came from Dota, and I feel like League of Legends is very anti-strategy as a game. Like Riot Games seems very anti-strategy. If you go back and you think about like all the different types of like comps we used to see, and like how comps used to be not just like a 1 or 2 champion comp, which is now what it is. It's like if you have a poke comp, it's because like 1 or 2 of your champions outrange the rest of the enemy champions. It used to be that like poke comps would be like 3 or 4 poke champions and then like 1 disengaged champion, and that would be the poke comp. So for example, if you go back to like season 2, when we qualified for Worlds on Dignitas, the game that we did it on was like we ran a Nidalee top, a poke AP Gragas, and a Caitlyn comp with like a Janna and an Alistar for disengage. And that was like our comp. It was like a poke comp because we had a range advantage on the enemy team. And it was done by multiple different roles, where now it just feels like even if a champion has like a poke advantage, the advantage is very small when it comes to like how much they're doing. It's not like you're seeing like, oh my god, the poke is coming in more. Oh my god, they just have to give it now. It's like one guy gets like hit by 1 skill, and it's like, oh, now it's like a little bit of an HP difference. So it feels like in general, Riot has just made changes to make the game less and less, strategy based. Even the jungle changes have dumbed down the jungle over and over again. Like jungle used to be a very complicated role, and they made it a role that is extremely forgiving. They made your camps spawn like all the time, so you essentially just like clear your camps down in a line, go to crab, reset, do the same thing again. You can look for ganks in between, but like the game is way more streamlined when it comes to how you're supposed to play. And yeah, it just seems like in general, every time that there is like anything that is like strategically different, Riot nerfs it. Like for example, the support item like Janna top and like Bard top and stuff like this. When that was actually like pretty broken, I believe it was the beginning of, was it 2021 or 2022? It was one of these times. Yeah, they like, this was a thing that was a different strategy. And instead of like making it balanced, or for example, support starting Doran's Blade, instead of like balancing things to like be like, oh, you can sometimes do it or you can sometimes not do it, it's always like they just kill it. They just remove it completely from the game. They're like, if you buy a Doran's Blade, then you're like, you get the support penalty anyway. So it's as if you had a support item. So it's like you don't actually have the ability to swap. They always are killing things that are creating strategy within the game. And I just think that it's like, yeah, I mean, at some point it just becomes like kind of boring to watch because you see the same thing all the time.
The part of that, I think, is that, as you hit on, it's always been Riot's like goal to keep the game looking like the game that you play at home. Whereas last year when I was kind of doing esports awards, that I was working with one of the casters for Dota, and she was like, yeah, they just dropped this new thing where everyone's ults are different, and so everyone's learning it on the fly at the major. And I'm like, they did this right before majors? They're like, yeah, people are learning. Like it makes Dota fresh. And that's how Valve has always kind of operated. They've just been like, here's your game, bloop, figure it out. Counter-Strike, bloop, figure it out. Dota, bloop, figure it out. It's always been like that. And their players are way more receptive to it. I think League players, they find something to complain about.
League players
see
Reddit.
Like, and that's the point, though. Like, you can't.
It's like mages are playing bot, but I'm always against. But you can change that, because what happened was in the beginning of the game, they were so willing to consistently baby people and make like and pretty much hard to find a meta with their changes. So because they've always done that, it's become the norm to, anytime something is different, remove it. Anytime something is strange, remove it from the game like instantly. And we just end up in the situation where we've even had different metas. It's like we had AD carry support meta, and it's very obvious that when we're in those metas, it's like, oh shit, people found something and you're just waiting for it to be nerfed. Like, AD carry support is going to be nerfed at some point. And yeah, it eventually ended up being nerfed. But yeah, I mean, like, one of the thing about keeping things in the game is I think that players falsely have this idea in their mind that if things are not changed in the game, then like AD carry support will just go bot the entire time. That's not how it works with games that are patchless. Like, if you look at how games, like, for example, Warcraft 3, I have loosely followed Warcraft 3 for the last 20 years. Like, I've just had different like months where I'll just go and I'll watch and I know all the units. And the strategies have changed, even though there hasn't been patches for years and years and years. Like, or like there's a long time between patches. I think there are patches every now and then, but it's like super long time between patches. The game has changed because players will adapt. Like the AD carry support thing was really broken, but what happens if we ended up in a time where people figured out that you could lane swap and the AD carry support thing was also viable at the same time? Would they have been able to like counteract that strategy? Would AD carry supports then not be that viable anymore because people are trying to lane swap? Like you see this in games that don't have patches all the time. So like the idea that you have to always hard force things out of the meta is like a very rigid mindset. Like once things are considered broken, then people start thinking about like, oh, the ability to counter it. Like, what can we do against it? But because things are just going to end up like being nerfed out of the game that are so clearly broken, it's always this weird thing where it's like for example, now that I'm coaching, right? Do I want to like get Blabber to play a ton of Darius jungle? Right when it becomes super broken and I put in games on it and I'm like, yeah, this is definitely broken. Do you want to have your player spend 20 games playing Darius jungle when you know the next patch is just going to get nerfed out of the game, essentially? Even though I don't even believe that Darius was like this unbeatable champion. I think that it was new and the way that it plays is very like solo queue abusive. But do you want to spend time like going into something? Because it feels like anytime something feels strong, it's going to be nerfed anyway. So it's like, it's a very weird thing that you're doing with League where you're just trying to like just adapt. Like, okay, something's broken. You have to be willing to play it while it's broken, but you also have to be prepared for it to be nerfed all the time. And the patch cycle is so quick that you know that things are nerfed instantly, and anything that's strategically different is just like cooked on the spot. Like, yeah, this is what it is.
I think that's a great point, and I would like to believe that the Balance team agrees with you, but I feel like this year, the last several years at Riot has been top-down prerogative is get players to play the game, you know. And it's been,
I think that's
there have been a lot of top-down prerogatives.
Well,
It's
I think that's above the Balance team too. In my opinion, I think that's like a real like higher up thing. Like get people like playing the game more splits, right? That was the original thing as well. People stop playing when it was like the one big season. People stop playing once they hit their rank. Make a rank reset, get them back in, get more games played. Yeah, I think that's like all aspects of a lot of things right now. Our changes.
Yeah, because I can see it. The conversation should also being what makes Riot different than everyone else. We're the most player-focused company in the world. That's always been the line, right? And so if our players are upset that their top laner doesn't know how to play a lane swap, then it's not very fun when they're playing solo queue, but then they watch in pro play, and that means like all 10 players need to know all the different iterations of lane swapping, and our player base is getting older. Like that just feels like, you know, a higher up conversation than in this sandbox. What can we do from a balance standpoint? Like that to me, it just sounds like competing agendas and to make the game and continue to last.
Yeah, I mean,
scale that it does, right? I mean, you're talking about Warcraft 3. The player base of Warcraft 3 cannot compare to the player base of League of Legends right now.
Sure.
And that's
but Warcraft 3 like influenced so much stuff, and it's just because like other things because other things were based off Warcraft 3. That's like why Warcraft 3 ended up like losing steam, and because they didn't like invest in all the different like aspects of things. Like we wouldn't be playing League of Legends right now without the existence of Warcraft 3. I hope everyone understands
100%.
that is like how we got here. Like Warcraft 3, a mod of Warcraft 3 was Dota, and League of Legends was based off Dota. Like that was like the 3-lane format and everything. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where also gaming was like way less mainstream back then. The main thing that Riot figured out was not actually like creating this player. Like I think, okay, so what I disagree with what you just said is the insinuation that you are making is that like League of Legends must have done things right in order to like have so much of a bigger player base than like Warcraft 3, right? But like the one thing was that League of Legends is free to play and Warcraft 3 is not free to play. Like you had to buy Warcraft 3. So because League of Legends was a free-to-play game that went for the microtransaction format, which was a good business decision, it was a good marketing decision, that is the thing that made League of Legends so popular. I don't think it was like the decisions of how they balanced the game. I don't think it's the decisions of how they patched the game, how they introduced new champions. The number one thing was that League of Legends was free-to-play based off microtransactions being the model to make money, and that became the meta, and League of Legends was one of the first things to do it. It was the main reason that Heroes of Newerth wasn't able to compete with League of Legends, because one, you had to pay, the other one you didn't. So it was just way easier to get people to play a game that was free. So that was like the big win of League of Legends. That's why League of Legends is the biggest game, or like one of the biggest games in the world. It's because they were the first to figure out this model, which is like, I mean, it's obviously a model that works. I'm not hating on that part of it, but I'm just saying that like the other stuff is secondary to the business model of how they make money with this game compared to how other companies make money with their games.
All right, that started with the format and that went deep
Yeah.
into the riot. That was fucking good. Maybe we'll
Hey man,
dive into it in one of the
I mean, it's not
off-season
the most
conversations.
palatable thing. I know people are gonna be like, "God damn, Dom's so negative." I mean, I'm like, whatever, bro. I'm just the negative guy. Like, I just see this stuff and I just want to talk about it. And I don't know, like, what, like, I'm not gonna dress it up differently than how I think. Like, I'm just going to give you guys my thoughts.
No, go
Yeah,
off,
because I still have thoughts on that. But I want to end it there because we got to start shifting to a little bit of the news that happened and the matches that also happened as well. But before we do, it's time to remind you about one of our friends that make Power Spike go, and it's our friends over at Turtle Beach. Now, we've talked about Turtle Beach before. They've got some of the best industry-sounding headsets. The Stealth 700 has been the industry's first ever cross-play dual wireless transmitter system. That means you can seamlessly switch between consoles and PCs with just the click of a button. It gets even better. While being connected to your console can connect to your phone for streaming, taking calls all at the same time, listen to your favorite songs while gaming, all done with the Stealth 700. And they don't just sell headsets. They also have gaming accessories that you could ever want. They're high quality at the prices that won't break the bank. From flight and racing simulators to controllers, keyboards, and mice, Turtle Beach is the ultimate cheat code. So head on over to turtlebeach.com and use the code SPIKE for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your entire order thanks to Turtle Beach using the code SPIKE. And again, we only offer you stuff that we use ourselves. Bam, there it is, Turtle Beach. Thank you for powering Power Spike. All right. Well, with that, we had a lot of talk there about the news around Riot. Riot made a decision that I think is a popular decision that I hate, mainly because you told the teams and players and all that stuff that Fearless was only going to exist for one split. So that means this offseason, teams didn't have to change their strategy. Not everyone was rolling like CFO was able to and having two top laners. Who knows? Maybe it could have been Zeus and Doran on the same team. And instead, they have reversed their decision from earlier in the season and will be running Fearless all year long. There's been a lot of takes on, is this good? Is this bad? And generally, it seems like it's good. Like, I think LS came out and said, it doesn't matter if you think it's good or not. It matters if the fans think it's good or not. And it's been clear that it has been good for champion diversity. It forces players to, work harder. And more importantly, the viewership is driven that way. Gentlemen, I wanted to propose to you, what were your initial thoughts on Fearless now being a all year long endeavor? Jamada, let's go with you first.
Well, I tweeted about it, but I didn't make my stance super nuanced. I just said it's bad, and it just values entertainment, right? And I do still like believe in the general sentiment of that for sure, right? I think fundamentally, Fearless is just like, it is to satiate the fans' desire to see a higher variety of champs more frequently. Because I think one important thing to say about Fearless as we've seen it right now is we've not inherently seen a bigger depth of champion pool right now. By the numbers, we just see more champions more frequently just by nature of what Fearless is and what the format does, right? To me, I think that making Fearless permanent is something in my head which is going to make Fearless lose its novelty relatively quickly, depending on how the game is balanced. Because I still think that Fearless is a response to a balance issue, yes, in part, like how rigid pros can be with like what they do and don't play, over anything else. And I think a lot of those issues are just kind of Riot created. I went on a very long rant on my own streams personally, so I feel almost kind of burnt out talking about it at this point. But I think the core things for me is that it's good for the esport, and if you don't believe that, I think you are kind of goofy. Because at the end of the day, If the viewers aren't entertained, the viewers leave. The viewers leave, there's no sponsorship. If the sponsorships aren't there, there's no money. Cool. We need to make sure the viewers are happy. But to me, as a gameplay purist, I don't think that for now, the observed like drop off in average level of play isn't worth keeping Fearless around all of the time. And again, I really do worry about if depending on how the game is balanced, how people continue to react to Fearless if the game effectively kind of remains in a balanced state, which is somewhat stale, right? Um, I don't know how many people watch like Freaks patch rundowns because I think they're great content. And if you don't, I think you should check them out at least like irregularly. But for the first time in a little while, he's talking about making champions who have low pick rates, like just if they have low pick rates, fuck it, just buff them. Just make them show up more, right? Just to make people think psychologically, hey, this is a champion that got a buff. Maybe it's going to show up more. And then obviously there's bleed through from solo queue to pro and vice versa, and also in a flip position too. So I think it's really about how the game is balanced and whether or not we just end up again still seeing the same amount of like the same sets of champions. Because at the end of the day, best of threes or specifically best of fives, you get a very defined meta from 1 to 5, right? From game 1 to 5. We've already seen the trend. No, we've already seen the trend of the strongest
1 to
champions
4.
tend to show up. Sure.
1 to 4.
Sure.
5.
Sure.
5. Yeah.
5, yeah. There's so many champions out that then you start to get weird shit. But
Yeah.
even in saying that, I don't like that part personally in best of fives, right? Because then you end up seeing players who are really good, yes, on champions that they're normally not playing or they're not usually getting a lot of practice on, right? And I think that inherently then makes game fives a lot more clown fiesta and fantastic for entertainment. But if you're someone who's in my shoes who wants to just see high level like gameplay and that's where I get my kick, like that's where I get my entertainment, then I definitely feel like very short-handed by that. So yeah, I'm not even going to talk about the whole like roster building aspects. I think that yes, that obviously sucks. I think
mean,
that
the thing
yeah.
about that is you never know what the meta is going to be when you pick a top laner. So it's like
exactly. So I never buy into those like narratives myself personally, just because you never know what the meta is going to shift throughout.
I mean,
like,
we
the
had lane
year.
swaps, right? For example, you have like let's say you build a roster, you're like, oh, we have a really good like mechanical top laner, and then you just end up in lane swaps for like the entire year. You're like, oh shit, like this wasn't a good. Like I think that there's enough changes in the game where most of the time you're not building your roster based off like, oh, this guy is like, oh, he's good on a small like amount of champions. You're building a roster over like based off like which player you think would fit your team the best. I think the idea that you're really considering fearless versus no fearless for the main like idea of how you're building your roster is pretty fake, because you never know what the meta is going to be, and you need a top laner that's proficient enough to pick up whatever champions come into the meta.
Yeah, I think it's a really overblown narrative, like in that part. But yeah, I think in short, it's good that the viewers for the time being are going to be kind of appeased with Fearless being here for the remainder of the year. I am still really apprehensive about it being present at Worlds and even arguably MSI, to be honest with you. To me, I would always prefer that we get like a whole split of one thing. So it's like we get one split of Fearless, and then we get one split of regular drafting, and we get one split. Like there was talk about Iron Man, because it's like the more extreme version of Fearless, right? Where the bans also stick through the entire series too. I would prefer a system like that as opposed to just like monotony if we want to change the drafting format. But I think keeping Fearless the entire way through, just because like it's been positively received in one split, is kind of like it to me jumping the gun. But again, I'm happy that the sentiment from the community and from like viewers in large is a positive one.
Yeah, if we did Iron Man, it would go pretty far away from what we were
I mean,
talking about
Jesus Christ.
earlier. Like you could just inch the 80 carry pool, and there's like no more marksman after game 2. Like, and it's 1-1.
Yeah.
Like you got to play Seraphine, you got to play. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like you'd have to figure
I think
it
that's
out.
I think the problem with Iron Man is that like I mean, ideally what would happen is then you like wouldn't have bot laners being marksman specialists anymore, right? Like the bot laners would just
They don't have to be
play.
bot laners. Yeah, they'd
Yeah,
have
I
to
mean
play.
they would play like Karma, and they'd play enchanters. They would have to play like you would have to play kill lanes and stuff. Bot
Get
potentially
wacky
like
shit.
You
yeah,
get
it would be-
subs and you get double mid laners. So now you've got a mid laner, and a bot lane mid laner that just plays mages. So you more have like a specialist in the role and not in, or a specialist in the archetype and not in the role. Like, I don't know.
Mhm.
Like, it would introduce new things. My whole issue with this thing is you told the teams one thing. You told the teams one thing. And then to back up Jamada's point, Fearless didn't bring Zed and Vlad. You know, people
No.
were like, "Oh my God, Fearless! Look, now we get Zed and Vlad." That was in game 2. Right? It was game 2. Like,
Yep.
you know, a lot of this diversity is just from players stunting on people, and maybe it's because they've been practicing weird things because of Fearless. But
Yeah,
that's not a product of Fearless.
that's a huge point that I think is
Mm.
kind of like overlooked. So right now, I do agree that players are pretty bad at fearless drafting. Like the players aren't good at these unique picks because for the most part, they were not getting many games. Like it used to be kind of like troll if you were picking 5 different champions every single scrim block, right? But now teams are scrimming in fearless format, right? So you scrim. Either if you're doing best of 3s, you do 3-game fearless, then you reset and do a second block of 3-game fearless. If you're playing best of 5s, you do 5-game fearless, and then you do another, then you reset, and then you and then that's the end of your day. Or you do like 2 games at the end if you really want to go hard. But as teams start scrimming more in fearless draft, they'll get better at playing these champions. Their proficiencies will go up on unique champions. I think that the strange thing for me is like I'm pro fearless because I do think that it is more enjoyable for right now. The problem that I have with fearless is just that it does feel like, and I can't tell if this is fearless draft or if this is just the fact that there's Otacon in the game and the game is more snowballing naturally. It does feel like you get way less close games nowadays. Like in almost every single like almost no games do I remember being like back and forth like nail biters. Most games feel like one team is just winning and then they like win because either they've outdrafted the enemy team or they just have a situation where they're playing champions that they're more comfortable on than the enemy team and they just are able to execute their champions better. So I think that that's an issue. I think one of the things that I can't tell is like right now, like I said earlier, a lot of viewers don't actually know what they want, and there's always something that they want to complain about, right? So before it was like lane swaps. Before lane swaps, it was like Corki Azir. You remember when every thread was like Corki Azir, Corki Azir, Corki Azir, and then it was like, oh, like Yumi versus Lulu, Yumi versus Lulu, Yumi versus Lulu. Oh, Yumi Sivir versus like Lulu Aphelios, Yumi Sivir, Lulu Aphelios. Oh, Zeri Yumi versus Lulu Sivir. Like everyone was playing the same type of bot lane matchups, and I can't tell if this is going to be the same thing where like people think they want fearless and then they watch more and more fearless and then by the end they're like, what the fuck, like this is dog shit, like I don't even like what I would much rather have the old format because like games are closer and stuff like that. So it's very hard for me to tell if this is actually better for viewers long term.
This is why I think we shouldn't all in, and I think we need to just like have a healthy mix where I'm down if we want to do it like very kind of segmented all of the time where, or like even if we have like a pseudo roadmap where it's like, fuck it, we just make the decision as Riot, like spring is going to be the fearless split or summer is going to be the fearless split or winter is going to be, like we just make that call at the start of the year. I don't care what it is. I just don't think it should be I don't think it should be a all year, like every single time thing. This obviously the first year is happening, right? And I'm down if we just randomly, 2025, this is the fearless year, and then like next year, then we do that, right? But I am just very apprehensive around the decision simply because I don't want the novelty of it to just disappear. And then what you're saying, Dom, is like people don't know what they want, and then they start complaining about fearless because like maybe what we're talking about with level of play, all that kind of stuff, that shit's realized where, drafts are a lot more one-sided, like more frequently, which just doesn't happen in standard drafting as much, like on paper, right? So yeah, that is just the main big concern here from like my perspective is that because fans often will always find something to complain about, fearless will eventually turn out to be a thing that they complain about. because at the end of the day, it's just the frequency of which we see certain champions, right? We are
Yeah,
not
yeah.
getting we're not getting as of right now, we're not getting a wider breadth. We're just seeing stuff more frequently that we usually
Not yet, but I mean that goes back
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
your point,
And
Dom's
I
point
think
of
that's
like
sample size. Yeah.
it's the first split of it.
Mhm.
Not even for a whole year. Like it allowed, I would say for the LCK, it allowed players like Showmaker to clearly shine. It allowed players like Zeus to clearly shine, and then it brought up the median or the bottom players as well. So I think the median moved up as well. But players like Faker, he didn't have to flex his massive champ pool. That's neither here nor there. I think my last point is it doesn't feel like you could do what you just suggested, which is go back. Like it feels
they would
like
just be
now that
super
they
mad,
ripped
yeah.
it off, now that they ripped off the Band-Aid, this is the way forward forever. Like that's what it felt like. I think when you set the expectation of like, we're going to try it for this split, it then led to, I think I've brought this up maybe before with Dom, with Monty on the show. And Dom, you might remember this, where the Philippines is a basketball crazy country. They love basketball so much, and you can play it all year long because it's inside. They have 3 different tournaments all year. That's how it works. They have the President's Cup, the Philippines Cup, and the Commissioner's Cup. And each one of those tournaments has a different rule set on your roster building. So one, you can have one like foreign player on your team. And so they go and get like some NCAA guy that wasn't great. Then like the Commissioner's Cup is you can get one foreign player and one FIBA Asia player. And then you can fill your roster that way. And then the Philippines Cup, I think, is only Filipino players, something like that. And that's just how it works. Like it is a 3-cup year, and the rules are different, and the way that you build your roster is different, and the types of contracts you sign a player are different. It's all, and that I think we could have taught the fans that way. You could have taught the teams that way and been like, first stand, because we always talked about spring. What's the point of spring? Where does spring matter? Okay, we'll add like championship points. Well, okay, how do you weight the championship points? Because then you get fucking Mad Lions. Like, how does that work? Well, then this was your way in it. It's like, okay, trust it this way. You play for a championship. It's a different rule set. It doesn't feel stale, and then you get into prepping for Worlds and for the big one at the end of the year with the MSI prep and then on. Like, I think it could have been that way, but because there was a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction that the viewership was good and, look at all these best of 5s that we got due to Dom's point where, like, they weren't fucking close until Game 5. To your point, the level of play was lower and it was low in Game 5.
Yeah.
But exciting. It just felt like it built upon itself, and I'm like, this feels like a mess.
Well, you know what it is it's like people are just going to find different aspects of the game. So like Fearless is obviously a really good aspect when it comes to the new champions you see. And that, because we've been in stale metas for so long, seeing new champions is the most novel. But if we end up in a situation where games are not close anymore for a long period of time and everything feels like a fucking stomp, then we're gonna be like, hey, it was kind of better before, like when we got to see like dragon setups in those really tense games. Because like right now, you just don't see many games that have a high level of resistance between the two teams. It's kind of like, yeah, they're like, there was one team that's generally winning. They'll probably end up winning this game. Like, yeah, you did have like that throw yesterday from Han Life where Casey ends up coming back, but that's a rarity. You don't end up in that many situations like that. And it's hard for me to tell how much of that is like practice and proficiency. Also, there's a lot more opportunities for you to make mistakes drafting in Fearless Draft. Like there was so many times where like before it's like, oh, we needed engage support here. And it's like, even if the engage support wasn't great, it's like, okay, there's enough engage supports you can fill the slot, right? It's like Leona, Nautilus, I mean, people would play even Maokai if they needed to, Rakan, Rel, whatever. They have enough champions that they can play. Now it's like, oh, the engage supports are out in game 1. All right, blind fucking Lulu. And it's like, if you don't have any answers to the Lulu, this Lulu Jinx is just going to run over the entire game. So it is a situation where you're ending up with more distinct draft gaps because teams are just worse at drafting Fearless and teams are worse at playing Fearless. So, I mean, we have to see if teams get better at this and if the games become closer, or if it's just like because of how snowbally the game is naturally, because that is definitely a part of it. Like now there's Otacon. I mean, with Ruinous Otacon, maybe it's a little bit less snowbally than it was before, but like earlier on, it was just kind of like team got Otacon, they would just win the game like instantly, you know?
Yeah, it was the run down the mid, get a kill, take a tower.
Yeah,
Here's
you go
your
5
500
for
gold, and
1.
we're back on the map.
You go 5 for 1, and then you just get Baron and win the game. It's like, what the fuck? Like, whose idea
Yeah.
was this?
Yeah.
I want to say my final like really small point is like I mentioned earlier. I think Fearless is like a response to like stale balance slash like metas, and then like the build up of viewer burnout. I am still in the camp of I would just prefer if the balance team stopped being scared of like champs being pro jailed, because I think that's one of the things that's also kind of an underlying issue of why we didn't see like heavy handed like nerfs and changes to just like straight up kill champs out of pro, because we had situations of like old with like Azir and Rise and probably a good handful of other champions. But I'm personally of the belief that I would rather actually just see like artificially cultivated metas for like set splits. We have 3 splits. Like I think fuck it. Like you want to make mages low key just really OP? Fuck it, just run it in. Like make that a thing. Make that like go back to the roadmap style that we used to have, where I think it was implemented a lot more poorly back then. Where it was like whole season, then we had the mid-season update, right? And it would always be some big game-breaking thing. I think that seems as we've swapped over to this kind of, and I quote, seasonality of having 3 splits. Why not just go to that extreme and artificially change the meta throughout the year? I think there's there's a lot of work that you have to put in behind it, and there's definitely a lot more room for error in general. But I think there's also more room to just kind of make the game consistently feel more fresh, for like from the top down. Like I think that will always reflect in pro and in solo queue. Whereas I think Fearless is just kind of a band-aid of, hey, the viewers are really burnt out, so like Fearless is going to provide more variety, like by virtue of what Fearless does.
Yeah.
And now we don't really have to like go fucking batshit crazy with certain like champs needing to be pro jailed or not, right? And I think it's just kind of the golden ticket fixes everything, and it's the path of least resistance for like the immediate
Also,
future.
do people what is actually happening? Because wasn't the idea of this season that there's going to be like 3 seasons within the season? Like, isn't there going to be like this was the Noxus
Yeah.
part, and then there's going to be a Demacian part?
Mm-hmm. I think
When does
so.
that start? Because that shouldn't that
I don't
happen
know
like
if-
right now? Because it's supposed
No,
to be 3 different ones, right?
I 100% believe that it'll kick off here like when the season starts. You know, like I like it wouldn't make any sense not to, right? It's like, okay,
that's what I was
first stand
thinking,
is
but it's
done. Like, okay, we lift the trophy and now we have this video for you. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that's what it is. It's surprise, we're going to,
because that's supposed to change everything. That's supposed to change like the Otacons in the game, right? Like, didn't they say that Otacon will remain as an objective in the game, but like it'll just do different stuff, and this will happen in like.
Yep.
Okay, so like so the idea is supposed to, because the way that I kind of interpreted it was that there was going to be 3 pro splits, and then the 3 pro splits were going to be like each pro split was going to be a different version of it was like Noxus, then Demacia, and then whatever the fuck, like I don't know what the last one is, but so are they going to still do that? So like so we're going to have like, okay, so we're going to get like
Allegedly.
a Demacian split. Oh nice. So pretty much I have C9 in Korea right now. The team is just practicing, and what we're practicing on right now is going to be a completely different game than what we play on officially.
Well, what they're doing is they're getting top tier mechanics practice. maybe the strategy isn't like,
I mean, it is true.
they're
normally,
practicing on ping that you wouldn't have in North America.
I mean, but just normally the way that things work when it comes to this, like for example, when Otacon came out, when all the teams were in Korea in like early December, it was all already on the new patch. Like everyone was practicing in Korea on the Otacon patch with the flowers and everything. And like the grub change, everything. Everyone was practicing on that in early December. So, there was a month and a half of practice going into the season, essentially.
Yeah. And I think that's unique to it being off season. And I think you bring up a good point that maybe they might have like not thought about, where like, instead of giving it like a month and a half early because it could have been leaked, we're going to drop it like, like 2 weeks before like normal like PBE, and then you just got to deal with it within those 2 weeks. So
yeah, maybe it'll be less extreme changes because like Otacon already exists. So if it does slightly different things, I mean, it's like we didn't even have Flower Otacon for pretty much the entire split, right? Like we had only the Voracious Otacon for all the splits, and then we just got a different icon right before this. So maybe it just won't even be that big of a difference. Like, you still play the game the same way.
Yeah. But yeah, Fearless coming back to you all year long. We talked about the positive and negatives about it and some of the reasons why we feel like it might be successful and why it might not. Let us know in the comments below what you think about Fearless and just like Riot changing their mind like that. I just don't like that. All right. Well, before we get to first stand coverage, which we're still like haven't totally dive into, time to remind you about one of our friends on the show. It's our Grundle cleaners. That's right. I'm talking about Mando. It's the whole body deodorant that's safe to use anywhere on your body. Talking pits, balls, thigh folds, belly buttons, butt cracks, and feet, created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. All products are baking soda free and paraben free, and you can choose from a variety of scents like bourbon leather, clover woods, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport. Bam, here it is. Here's my Mando, the odor sealed bourbon leather. It's helped me when right after soccer, unfortunately trains are the way and public transportation is the way to go here in Korea. When your boy goes and plays sports, I got to hop on the bus after a game. I feel a little awkward. I'm like, I'm very sorry, fellow citizen or fellow resident of Korea. I know I'm a little stinky, but I'm less stinky thanks to my friends over at Mando. It's been pretty great to use and changes things up and make sure that my Grundle after a game, not that stinky. And it was actually clinically proven to control odor better than a shower soap alone. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's Grundle odor was a level 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average Grundle odor was what, Jamada? Out of 10. That's right, a 0 out of 10. So thanks to our friends over at Mando, we got you covered with their new starter pack. Great for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And as a special offer for Power Spike listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code SPIKE. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack using the code SPIKE at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Use the code SPIKE. Tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe thanks to our friends over at Mando. All right, we turn our focus now to the tournament itself. First stand has had how many days? 5 days? 4 days of matches. We're not even fully locked in yet on, is it NA that makes it out? Is it EU that makes it out? Is it China that makes it out? That's crazy that China hasn't locked it up yet. I mean, maybe not so much because it is top esports, but we'll see. As it's time to start calling out some things with the latest episode of Fraud Alert. I'm gonna let the guys promote someone or something to be called out as fraud, and we'll rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. So let's get into it. This week's episode of Fraud Alert. All right. So we were going to do players and teams, but, we kind of went long earlier in the front. So I'm going to let you guys throw someone out there and all of us can vote on it. So Jamada, you go first. Throw out a player or team that you think has been fraudulent.
Kanavi.
Kanavi.
I'm sticking with what, a big part of that top 10 list we did last week, right? You guys were really high on Kanavi earlier. Dom, you were high on Kanavi, right?
No. I hate Kanavi. I hate
well,
Kanavi, but I
you put him third. You put him high as shit.
I had to. Like he was unfortunately the best player in playoffs, even though I think that he's just going to run it down.
Yeah, that guy's been stinking up the rift, man. Whether it's like the Nocturne flash bot at like level 3 underneath
what the fuck was that?
I don't know, bro.
I mean,
don't know.
That was awesome.
The thing is, it's like he's like generating advantages. Like if you watch the game that he played versus Yike, the game 1 with Viego, it's like he does the worst play of all time, gets his whole team killed. Then he just grinds back up, just develops like a 50 CS lead, like 4 kills. He's massively like 2K gold ahead.
It was so insane on an individual
and he
level.
Just runs it down again, bro. And it's like It's like, man, like if you could just not like cancer into the entire game, then you would just be winning. Like you would just be winning. Like these games would just be won. Like you just have to not int. That's it.
Look, I don't know. This just feels like a build off of that top 10 list, and like honestly, it was more about the DEIing of the Western players in our top 10. But like, yeah, I don't know, man. I had a bad feeling about about top playing KC, and even though KC shit the bed everywhere else, I got that one right. I knew Top Esports would fuck that shit up. I knew they would lose that series. I don't care like about all the other stuff leading up to it. I knew that was where they would lose. And I think, yeah, Kanavi to me is the fraud guy, because so many people have been hyping him up. I've just never bought into it. And I feel so vindicated that in the games where, you know, you want to see Kanavi show up, like versus HLE, fucking silent, right? KC series actually had the agency to try and make some things happen. I think playing Viego into that comp without like a lot of hard engage is very difficult. So I kind of feel a ways for him, but still he fucked up that game for his team with his lead.
I mean, he didn't have to pick Viego. You think his coach forced him to pick Viego
No,
there? Like
it was game one. It was game one. He didn't have to do that shit.
How do you end up playing a best of 3 fearless, and the 2 champions you end up on are Viego and Karthus in a 2 like he played 2 games of fearless, and the 2 champions he ended up on are like 2 of the fucking 4 or 5 champions, fringe champions that might be viable in like ultra specific conditions.
The best part is, did you see it was like he recently played solo queue against Karthus or
Karthus,
I can't remember if it was like a solo queue or it was it had to be solo queue, and he was just getting bent over by Karthus. So it's like, yeah, you know what, bro, Karthus has to be good here, guys. Let me play Karthus, please. And then it just shit on the entire way through, completely useless. Yeah, Kanavi's my fraud of fraud alert of the week. I'm just gonna keep it short, sweet, and simple. His gameplay has spoken for itself. Right? The only time he's looked good this week is versus Umpty, and that should really say something.
And that's, you know, Umpty made Yike not look so good. Yeah, that's a 10 out of 10. I think that's pretty clear. The only argument you might have against it was like, oh, you kind of expected it, and so it's like, was it fraudulent if that's what you expected?
In my case, but everyone else apparently fucking didn't. Everyone was, again, like the
I'm the biggest Top Esports hater, man. I was tweeting out about how disappointed I was that they're going internationally from the LPL. Like they are the worst representatives that the LPL could have. Out of any of like the top 4, top 5.
They made the bot run. You know, they won the gauntlet. They won one of the hardest, probably the hardest tournament in league.
So fraudulent. So fraudulent. The way that they did it. Like they're down 10k gold to BLG, and then not only does BLG go for like some disgusting int play, they also have the Cassante bug on top of it, and they end up winning a game where they completely lost. Like 10k gold down. Enemy team's about to get Elder. Like it was just so crazy, bro. Like, and then they end up just winning. Oh, it hurts.
Yeah, Jamada just posted the Ox like I fell for it again award. You know, a Top Esports jersey, and it's a guy like just kind of freaking out. Like we were watching the Top Esports versus KC series at like I think Chronicler's house, and Dan was distraught. He thought it would be okay. It was not okay. He's like, why are we losing to KC? What the fuck is going on? It was awesome.
So what is actually happening there? Because I've noticed the second you go to Korea, you just like, because you still are an NA fan, right?
Yeah.
Like you support NA over like every 100%. Region when they go. Yeah. What is it about like Europeans?
LCK.
Wait, you support LCK over NA?
I have to. It's my job, bro. Yeah.
But
you
like,
know, it's very weird.
No, there's no way. So like, if you had that energy, when
FlyQuest was playing Gen G, I think this is a good example, right? I was supporting FlyQuest until Game 5, and then I was like, we need Gen G to win here. Like that feels like if they win, that's fine. But no, you're right. I think in my heart. Because I think about this when I'm watching in Korea.
So you've literally been. I just don't even know how that's possible. So you've been an NA fan. Like you're actually one of the most pro NA people I know for like 10 years almost or something, or like something crazy like this. And then you go to LCK, and last split was your first split summer was your first split, and instantly when you were watching Gen G versus FlyQuest, You actually are
Not instantly.
believing. Okay, but when you're watching FlyQuest versus Gen.G, you're rooting for Gen.G.
No. Games 1 through 4, it was like, this is great. I love it. I'm seeing my soccer teammate, Casper, do great. Bwippo is Bwippo in. We see young Masu. That was awesome. But then when it was like, ooh, this actually has real world ramifications for worlds, I don't know. They're just gonna get shit on by T1. Like, I don't know. That kind of happened. So yeah, I would say like
Interesting.
that.
Damn.
Yeah. Also,
Because
think
I've
it'd be
noticed
different.
that in LCK, the Europeans that go over there, they're just like, they don't give a fuck. Like, there's no like EU allegiance. They're not like, oh, let's go KC. They're like, fuck KC. Who's KC? Like, they don't give a fuck about like.
Also, KC is a very polarizing org. Like, either you love them or you don't.
Yeah,
right?
It's disgusting. Like the way that the fans act. Like the fans literally have harassed every single person who I'm like friends with. So it's like I don't know. The thing they always try to make it seem is it's like, I mean, even just the way,
It's
even
the
the way
T1
that
thing. It's
Kometo
not all
tweets,
fans.
even the way Kometo tweets, you could see why the fan base is the way that they are. Because like he'll be like, evil tongues always like swallow themselves, or like stuff like that, where it's like oh, they're evil. If they're not KC fans, they're against us. They're bad people. Like there's always this undertone of like it's us versus them. And I've noticed that like either everyone outside of the KC fan base is just horrible and KC fans are just like the light, or the KC fan base is just like insanely hive-mindy, cultish, and toxic. Like,
So I've got some insight on that because I was at a LoL party yesterday. Like, they are loud. They're actually super loud. It is cool that they are super loud. You know, they're cheering. But I think what I didn't like about it this time was that it felt like they were like, we're ultras. This is how we're gonna run LoL Park. And it's like, you are in Korea, good sirs. That's not how this works. And like there was a little bit of
like entitlement.
Not entitlement. It was, and not confrontation either. It was just kind of like, hey, don't cheer like this at these moments. We don't do that here at LoL Park. And there's a moment in at the end of the TL series, I think it was, where or the KC series, where they have the fan can set up because they want to promote the fandom. They want to promote this and like be like, this is cool. Like they're winning, they cheer, all that stuff. During the Hanwha Life and like yesterday's series, Hanwha Life versus KC, I think they did it right. I think the way that they did it, I think the passion, especially at the that late game decision making in game 2, that was great. That was awesome. But there was like a couple of fans of the KC group that are like standing in front of the fan cam being like, respect the ultras. We don't like the fact that they talk to us, to the point where they kind of, you know, it's like you have to create an agreement with this fan group or whatever. We have fan groups in Korea. You don't disrespect the way things are done. Like, it's like, don't disrespect the ultras. It's like, then respect everyone at LoL Park. Respect the whole system that's been there and cheer around that. They're not saying, no, you can't cheer. No, you can't jump. No, you can't do these things. It's like, no, don't like, you know, disrupt it to the point where casters can't enjoy it. Don't make your enjoyment make it not enjoyable for everyone else when you're in another area. Like that's
like a win in Rome thing, right? Like,
yeah,
just like be respectful of the culture that you're currently existing in, but like try, if you want, like be yourself inside of the culture where you are currently existing, right?
And that was led only by a couple of people. Like I saw, it was only a couple of people, because there were a lot of fans or people that became fans or Koreans that were like, I like this. I like this culture. And they did it in the right way. But then there was like, you know, chants that go on much longer as the play's over. And now like maybe they're setting up for Baron and it could be misconstrued or distracted to the players that like, you know, you're signaling stuff. Like it's like, don't do that. Don't do that. And maybe that's how they do it in LEC, but that's not how it's done here. And it's, you know, in a smaller venue. Maybe if we had a huge venue and we're at a stadium, whatever. But it's close enough where it could affect and does affect the other fans' enjoyment and how it works in Korea and how we've done it in Korea. And it was stuff like that. So I do think it is a top end thing and feels very similar to how the T1 fans, it wasn't until the Smash Guma thing where T1 fans then really righted the ship and they're like, hey, if you're just being pissy about the Brotherhood because Smash and Guma, you know, you're a Guma fan, then you don't care about T1. I mean, there hasn't been that effect yet here.
Have you seen the comments on recent videos? Like, did you see the Joe Marsh video recently?
No. Go ahead. Oh man.
I mean, it's just like it's like it. He's just doing he did an
Like an update.
interview where he's talking about domestic titles on Reddit, and then you look at like the comments, and it's like he's just talking about like, oh, T1 is like a hard place to work, and then he had comments about just how they build the team, and he's saying like you should be trustworthy as a fan because we got it done twice, we got 2 championships, and I think that's the result that everyone would have liked in the last 2 years. And then all the comments are just like the most upvoted comments is the liar's worst enemy is someone with a good memory. You forgot your own sentence, T1. Stop with the family narrative when you treat the players who contributed to the team's victories like that. Don't beg for the
they're a
trust.
massive
All you
fan
do
base.
is
You're gonna have like
disrespect.
100 wackos that
But
like,
that's the thing
gonna
is like, why are those the most upvoted comments then? Like, if that is not the majority sentiment, then why are those the only ones at the top? Like, if there is like more positivity, wouldn't the positivity rise to the top? Like, wouldn't those be the ones that would have the most upvotes and like be the most liked comments? Would be like, we trust you, T1. Like, you guys like got it done. We're T1 supporters forever. That wouldn't be like that's what I don't get about when people say that it's like, oh, it's only like the bad ones that do this type of stuff. It's like, then why are those the most prevalent comments everywhere? And then like when I'm getting like insanely shit on by KC fans, or Yamato's getting insanely shit on by KC fans, why is it that the ones that are negative towards him are always 10 to 12 times more popular than the positive sentiment?
Because they are ultras. It's the ultra fanatic, ultra crazies that kind of energy like is stronger than the positive energy.
It's
That's
weird
what
to me, man.
I don't think
I
it's
don't
more.
know. It's
but
something that I'm
stronger.
never gonna be on board with. Like, it's just something that I just I just think it's cringe. Like, if I saw people behaving like, what's weird is like it's because I'm like, I guess, part of like a sports fandom. I've been a Heat fan for like 30 years. I follow like the Heat fan accounts and stuff. And like when the team sucks, it's just like, yeah, team fucking sucks right now. Shit, we got to get some draft picks or something. Like, should we trade? Like, they're real about the situation. But like the thing that I don't like about the KC fans is there's such like a level of delusion where it's like
they're like Knicks fans, bro. The Knicks are back. MSG, whatever it was.
It's like almost an ironic thing with like the Knicks fans, like the Knicks fans, like if you actually sit a Knicks fans down, it's like, yeah, the Knicks suck. Like, yeah, we suck for like 20 years now. Like, like I feel like the KC fans are like ready to like die. They're like, you disrespect KC. It's like, all right, let's 1-for-1 IRL. It's like, what the fuck, bro? Like, Jesus, like, can we just fucking like just make some commentary and not feel like this about it? I don't know. It just seems so strange to me. Like, there's something. And also like the like level of aggressiveness with KC fans that it goes to is like actually insane. I mean, when Boss said like Targamas is shit or whatever, like, oh, this guy is boosted, he says that on a stream, he's just getting insane amounts of death threats. Like, you remember when Kadro said the thing about like like KC fans, like if they like boo, if they're gonna like set up to like boo the Korean players at Worlds, like this is like fucked up, whatever. And then he just got insanely shit on for that. Same thing happened with me whenever I've criticized KC. Jamada recently, he just tweeted out, damn, when Umpty jungle gapped Yike. Just go read the comments there. Like, I don't understand why we can't just say a fandom is like majority shit. Like, why do we always have to say it's a vocal minority? When it's like, no, the majority is the problem. Because I don't think it's a vocal minority. There's no evidence to me that displays that this is actually the minority of people and this is not the majority sentiment. There's nothing that shows that to me.
Even in this sample group here at Lol Park, right? Like in game 3, they had their chants going, KC, Karmine, whatever, they were doing it. And then there was a, like in Lol Park in the lobby, the fans sit outside. The Hanwha Life fans were there. They were there. And then your boy, like the KC fans were behind me. They're like there, they're doing their chants over there. I turned my back and there's another monitor here and all of my Hanwha Life fans are over here. And I would be like, Hanwha Semyong fighting! And like this is what the Hanwha fans did. They went, Are you really shouting? Are we going to get in trouble with them? They didn't do anything. The KC fans didn't do anything. They were respectful of
I don't
me
think that they're like
when
dangerous in person necessarily, but I do think that like, I don't know. I normally just see majority negative sentiment from KC fans on anyone that says anything remotely anti-KC. It doesn't seem like a fandom that is like balanced or like they're willing to like have any type of criticism. It's just like you're either with us or against us. It's like you're either our friend or you're an enemy. And like we will treat like if you're an enemy, we're gonna just throw the fucking throw all the negative shit at you. And I've seen it just over and over with anyone who's been the enemy of KC. So like I don't know how to feel like this is like a unique thing. It feels like either like, because to me, if you're passive about it, like if you see this much negativity and you're passive about it, then you're like soft condoning it. You know, it's like, for example, if I'm a streamer and I just let people like type racist shit in my chat all the time and I just don't ban anyone, I just like kind of just I see it and I just let it go. Like I feel like you're implicated in that as a streamer, right? Like you're just like, oh, you're passively condoning that type of stuff. If you're a Casey fan and you see all this negativity on somebody's post and you have, and like 90% of your fans are actually good fans that don't think that this treatment of other people is fair, wouldn't you put some effort into correcting it? Because it doesn't feel like those people are actually like.
A very good example of this actually is just is Kadril.
Just a couple of days ago,
with the NLC stuff, apparently there are a fair few people like cross-chatting during finals, going into like the players, obviously all the players were live streaming, right, to the best of my knowledge, and they were kind of being harassed by a group of Los Retornos fans, and Kadril's like, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, if you guys do that, we're just gonna cross-ban you, like, and we are going to make sure that you don't get to participate in any of the community stuff, whether it's on my channel, whether it's on like any of the boys' channels, we will just get you gone, bro. And the fact that we don't see like even a fraction of that sentiment from, you know, Kameo is more than disappointing, really, when you have a fan base as large as his and as large as Karmine Corp's. And I get it. It maybe it seems like a very daunting thing, but at the end of the day, it is still very like person driven. The Karmine Corp like brand as a whole is like at its core still very person driven, right? So if Kameo just said like in a very similar way to what Kadril like put his foot down, and obviously in this case it's gone on for a little while, right? Whereas Kadril, it feels like tried to nip it in the bud.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen to Kamedo's credit, I have seen him make like posts like that on the Karmine Corp thing, but
I feel like it's always he always
yeah,
really pussyfoots around it though. Like I don't think he necessarily puts his foot hard down.
Yeah,
It's like,
did.
if you do that shit, you're gone.
Yeah, I mean, like when Kamedo did that, right? Or like Karmine Corp like put that out where it's like, hey, like and it was, I think it was mainly around the Linkus thing, because I don't know if you remember what happened with Linkus, but like this guy was getting like hardcore harassed and death threatened by the KC community because he was perceived as a traitor, which is like the worst thing to KC fans, because he was on Karmine Corp Blue. He had a chance of moving up to the main team in Karmine Corp or joining Vitality, and he always liked Mac, the coach, and I believe Pat as well, and he decided to go with Vitality instead when he had the option to move up. And he was getting like insanely hated on. And the KC fans, and you know, because the KC fans were going so hard, Karmine Corp put out something that said, you know, we don't condone of this behavior. But it seemed like one of those things where it's like no one believed it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, they have to do that because they're the org. Anyway, guys, back to his DMs, like back to his posts. They harassed it. Like afterwards, it made no change in their behavior. Afterwards, I don't know if you remember, but every single time that Linkus like lost a game in LEC, he would put his like tweet like, bad game, like, you know, we'll get it next week. And it was just monster amounts of KC fans.
Yeah.
Like every single time. I don't know. Like there has to be something that can be done to make it not this like this crazy. And yeah, I mean, Los Ratones fan base, I mean, based off like viewership, I mean, Los Ratones got maybe more viewers for the NLC finals. Like Kadril had more viewers for NLC finals than Kamedo's even had at Worlds. So there might even be just more Los Ratones fans than KC fans. I haven't had even close to like the problems with them. Like sometimes like Los Ratones fans, because, you know, I have a competing team and also like I'm I guess like a competing coach or something like that, even though it's like Kadril is so fucking big at this point, it doesn't matter. I do have like people being negative, but it's never like the level of aggression. It's never like what the fuck? Like you're the fucking enemy. Fuck you, kill yourself. It's never that. It's just like, man, I just don't like Dom, bro. Like fuck that guy. He's just like, he's cringe, or he's like whiny, or, you know, he's so fucking toxic. It's like stuff like where they just like try to demean my character, but they don't really like go in with like the threats and like the, you know, and to like, you know, just trying to harass me, really. Like they kind of do it within their own community. Like they'll put posts on like their own community or their own Reddit like that are negative about me, which I think is like cringe, because it's like I don't even like spend time talking about them, so it's like, why are they talking about me so much? But they don't like come to me and my people and harass me to the same degree. I'll never post something and have like 500 Los Ratones fans just telling me to like end my life. Like it just won't happen.
Yeah.
All right, let's reel it back on in here, because I feel like we could just call it
fraud alert. Fraud alert. All right,
go for it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a condition on this.
Okay.
Spawnless TL. How fraudulent is Spawnless TL? When Spawn is not there, how fraudulent are they? Because they're two different teams.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
like, bro. The belt of Spawn is got some spiritual power behind it. It's the only thing I can think of.
The context for all this is that Spawn departed from the tournament.
Yep.
Team Liquid put out a statement 45 minutes ago saying prior to her first stand qualification, Jake had an unmovable obligation on March 14th. Team Liquid Honda players and staff prepared for this with the support of coaches Swiffer and Rainover. We greatly appreciate Spawn's effort to be with the team until the final hour. Spawn has given 5 years of his dedicated service with this team and will continue to use the tools and strategies he's equipped us to fulfill his vision. Thanks for checking in. And then Spawn quote retweeted that earlier in the season, he met with Steve and Dodo to discuss his plans for 2025. He was honest and told them he couldn't coach from North America full time. We looked for solutions that could set up the team for most success in instances such as these. He even offered to step down. We decided that working with me more coaching staff, the coaching staff in a new capacity with me in person and remote coaching was the best chance for Team Liquid to win. Split One proved that they can do that, and they're immensely proud of the systems that was built. He has full support and trust of Swiffer and Rainover. Support the team today. So that's the context there. Spawn left in the middle of the tournament, but it's just you could just see the change in the team over the last couple games, and yeah, Jamada, what do you think of Dom's proposal here?
To be fair, I think that what's actually kind of funny is this almost kind of applies more to TL's split holistically as opposed to even like explicitly first stand. But even like the series, technically yesterday now as we record it, like I don't think it got better for TL once Spawn had to go, because it was game 1 he was there, game 2 he wasn't, and they kind of just got ran over, like even worse if memory serves correct. So yeah, I don't know, man. Spawn keeps that team together. He's the umpty whisperer, right? Whenever Spawn's around, umpty just slightly better behavior on the day. No death records happening. There's not much to disagree on, I fear. Like it's like my Kanavi take, in my opinion. I don't think there's any positive thing to say about Kanavi this tournament. And I think that with TL, it's kind of a similar thing. No Spawn, no party. So I would have been worried anyway for the HLE series. But now I just feel like there's a chance that we might see some records get broke tomorrow, man. If HLE are in the mood for it. Like straight up.
No, they'll end the game so fast. They won't be able to end the game before the Mad Lions game ended. So like we already have that.
16
and
whatever.
Yeah, like the TL just won't die. It'll be like stomps, but it'll be like like 24 stomps where like the game ends at like 26 minutes. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's like they're farming them like a kill a minute kind of deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I like that one, and I feel like we spent a lot of time on the segment already. So fully locked in there. I think for me, the fraud alert for me are the fraudulency is the haters, the still haters of the current scoreboard. And hear me out.
Boo.
Hear me out.
Okay.
I think that the scoreboard currently still is shit, but the idea of what they're doing, training your eyes to get away from like looking up at the top and now look at the top left corner is good. I think the way that they're pulling the information is good. I think the type of information they're displaying, the frequency of them playing, which is why Dom has to do a text dragon counter, is bad. I think that's terrible. But I like the idea of training it, and almost like, again, if this is Mickey Mouse tournament, it's first stand, we only get 1 week. You get to put it on display, and it still functioned. It still worked. And now they get to work on it and prep it a little bit better for MSI and then perfect it for Worlds.
I spent Monday morning in the hospital. So I had to watch First Stand's first set of games on my phone.
Isn't it
I
better on the
couldn't-
phone?
I couldn't read shit. No, hell no. It's worse on a smaller screen. It's worse on a smaller screen. You can't see shit.
Jesus.
So like, yeah, I don't know. I really hate the order of the lower third part, like the actual lower third information too. Like I like seeing the information that's there, but they really need to reorganize that and
Yes.
like make
but
it
they can
far
do
more.
that.
Yeah, well, I hope they fucking do. I thought they were gonna keep on doing it throughout the week, but they basically made 2 changes day 1, 2, 3, and then just called it a day yesterday. I don't think anything changed yesterday off the top of my head. I hate the top left thing. I really, 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 really hate the top left thing. What's more annoying is I actually like a lot of the graphics in the top left thing, but the fact that there's so much rotation and it's so small, and I'm sorry, but we spent a decade and a half with the information at the top middle of the screen. Throw that shit at the top middle of the screen as it is with all of the graphics, and I promise it's actually not that bad. But if you keep everything in the top left, and it's small, and it's rotating, like it might make me go blind having to squint to see like what's actually going on in the top left. Like I think that is more than we talk about like blue light hurts your eyes. No, that shit hurts my eyes, and that's gonna make me go blind if I have to keep trying to figure out what's going on 24/7. Yeah, the visual feedback on it just sucks. It's really sad. So
Yeah.
I hope they change it like soon. I don't think you've got shit fraud take this week, dGon. Do better. Do better. You aren't even in you are in the
fuck that
minority of the
scoreboard.
minority.
That
Yeah,
that
fuck that scoreboard.
that scoreboard is some dog shit. Like, you know, the worst part is when you want to know like a dragon status, and then you
Yeah.
have to wait 20 seconds for it. Like, you
Really?
like how
Yeah,
crazy
yeah,
is it? 'Cause
that's
I
bad.
timed it.
That's bad. That's bad. I think that's
I mean,
bad.
even-
Like, if they just have it there, like I think that's fine.
Mm.
I mean, the timer and the
rotating.
games. I mean, the timer and the game score, like being like off to the side, like I don't even think that it's better. Like I liked being able to watch the center of my screen and then see things in the peripheral. I hate having to like look top left, look bottom,
It
look
distracts
top
you.
right. Like I'd rather just have it like generally like around the center of my screen so I can look at my screen while fighting and I can quickly just check. Like I don't want to have to go like all the way to the corner with my eyes every single time.
I'm gonna stress if this becomes like the global like scoreboard. Like if I return to the NLC in a few weeks' time and this is the scoreboard setup, guys, I'm gonna be depressed. I'm going to get really depressed. My eyes will hurt. I
So,
will start needing glasses very soon.
I mean, Jamada probably know this, but the casters have had to cast with this, and so the
have they?
casters,
Oh no.
the
Oh.
casters have given pretty clear feedback already on how to improve it and all that
Oh.
stuff. So I feel like,
Yeah.
Can you
I
leak
feel
what
like
the improvements that they want are?
I think
you know what? The best way to leak it would probably be reading this comment from live viewer Zenith HCN, which says the overlay, the overlay is fantastic. They just need to work on communication, map awareness, laning, vision control, CSing, poking, landing skill shots, objective control, early game, mid game, late game, ganking, and getting kills. It basically that.
Okay.
that was kind
Cool.
of the feedback that they went with like,
I mean,
hey, I don't know where to look. If I got to take a glance and I got to make a statement on like itemization, on runes, on like why is the ult thing being there looks visually like it fits like in the block, but it's so tiny I can't see the cooldown anyways. Like
I
there's
almost
a
think
lot
it
of
take up too much
that.
space. Actually, that
Yes.
specific part of the HUD with the ults. But
well, I
yeah.
mean, the first ult thing that they showed, like on day one, the ults, it was so fucking bad. Like, holy fuck!
I was like,
you-
what rune is that? And I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
I mean-
that's just like a zoomed in Corky.
Well, I mean, the
or, like,
first
zoomed
one
in
was, like-
Ion.
what's crazy is like, why? How could they fuck it up so bad for the first day and then make these adjustments for a second? Because I think that you could have literally showed this to any person who is involved with the game like consistently, and they would just be able to tell you all the problems. Like, in the first 5 minutes of watching, I'm like, where the fuck are the ults? Like, oh, they're here. Oh, that's really hard to tell because they're right next to summoner spells. I was looking, I was like, where are the runes? Where's the gold difference? Where's the experience? Is this bar?
Gold,
Because like
yeah.
at the end of the health bar, there was like it was like solid for a portion.
Yep.
I'm like, is that the experience bar? But no, it's just synced with the health bar, so it must just be the health bar. I was looking at all this stuff, and like within 5 minutes, everyone could tell how much they hated it. Like if you go back and you look at Cagel's reaction, my reaction, Yamada's reaction, everyone who watches the game for a living, and their reaction in the first 5 minutes is it's all the same stuff. It's like, where's the dragons? Where's this? Where's that? Like, I feel like you could have ran it past anyone and they would be able to help you with it.
Yeah. The clip of Cadril constantly moving his camera to
Moving the
figure out where to
camera,
go.
great.
That was pretty
Great
good.
clip.
And but I mean, then the next day they
I
listened to
did
the
the same
feedback.
thing. I
and
just
they
wasn't
did that.
screaming during it, so I guess it wasn't as hype.
Yeah, sorry, brother. It didn't make Reddit. Unlucky.
Yeah.
All right, maybe not
I
the
think it did.
greatest
It did
for
make
fraudulent.
Reddit, I think it did make Reddit. I was in the same video as the Cadril one, if that's the one you're talking about.
All right.
It's like the Chinese, the Korean streamers reacting, and then it was Cadril and me.
Oh, okay. I'll go find it later.
Maybe I'm talking about a different one.
Yeah, I think it might be a different one. All right. Well, those are our fraud alerts for the week. Maybe not the greatest take by your boy, but you know, I'm hopeful that they'll figure it out. All right. Next up, we've done a lot of negative. Like we'll push the last ad read for later. We've done a lot of negative, so let's do a little bit of positive. We're gonna have a segment of rank 'em, and it's the top 3 takeaways so far. You know, pleasant surprises, positive things that we can take away from First Stand. We'll all give our list and then, you know, comment on it from there. So, Dom, let's start with you. Your top 3 takeaways so far from First Stand, the tournament and the event itself.
They have to all
Obviously
be positive.
not the overlay. They have to be positive. Yes, Dom. Yes, Dom.
I mean, I think it's
Dom, we've done so much negative today. Come on, man.
I mean, it's positive that it's only a week long, I would say.
All right, there's one. God damn, dude. Come
on. It's positive that Casey will probably be eliminated today. So, you know, like then we just can move on with the actual tournament and we don't have to deal with like the constant like baby mode that we got going on social media. That's pretty positive as well. And third thing would be that Hanwha been playing pretty well. They've been playing some of like the best league that I've watched in like years, to be honest. I think that they're like so good, this team. This is like one of the highest level teams I've seen. So being able to watch a team at this level has been really nice. Those are my 3 positives.
Come on, man. That's really that was
I don't do the positivity, dGon. Just like it is what it is, bro. It is what it is.
All right.
What do you want from me, man?
This was bad hosting. I should have called it like things that make you the most hype for, and that would have been fine. But I used the word positive, and Dom's brain was like, ah.
Yep. Yep. That's me, baby. I will find the negative lighting in everything.
Yeah. Where's your sign? I can't even see your sign behind you anymore.
No, it's over there. I was thinking actually about like this is how I'm hardwired. I was thinking about making a video explaining like the downfall of like the LCS and all the bad decisions that were made in order to like kill off like the entire fandom of the LCS, starting with like the Jax Anderson. Like I planned it all out. I have it in my head.
No way, from Jax Anderson?
Jax Anderson into like the LCS Dome. You remember the LCS Dome during COVID, where they started like changing the way that LCS was like serious. There was like a prestige around LCS, and then it became like a kind of like a joke. They had like Sushi Dragon with like the light show being like, yeah. And then the LCS was good. Jax Anderson thing into the 2021 full 45 game regular season where like the records carried over. So those teams and the 8-team playoffs and 45 game overall season into 2022 where they just like removed co-streaming for some reason. Then when they put it on weekdays, then when they did the LTA, like, bro, I have it all planned out in my head. Like even my ideas of like videos to make are like to explain negative things. I mean, my Fnatic video on discipline was just like, I hate this fucking shit that this guy just said. Let me make a video on why I hate it, you know?
Do it G-Base style. Like straight up just make it a documentary. I'll watch that shit. And I'm sure plenty of people too.
I think this bangs, dude. I think this is a banger.
Like
positive LCS guy is like, I agree with all these takes. This would be good. You should make it a series. Draw it out.
Yeah.
Make people watch that shit. LCS, you good?
I'm gonna make it unwatchable though. Like there's something about the LCS you good, because I had this idea and then I started like showing Rachel clips of it because we were talking about like it feels like they just want to kill the game in North America with the decisions that have been made, right? Like that was her take, because she's like, I used to be a huge fan of LCS, and you know over the years I just became less and less interested, and I'm like, yeah, I lived through all of it. This is why. And I was like, do you remember Jax Anderson? She's like, no, what is Jax Anderson? So I showed her the
No,
thing.
you showed her Jax
Yeah.
Anderson?
Good. Yeah, I have the song in my head because I listened to it like 2 days ago. Like that shit, like I have it in my head, bro. That shit is like, LCS, you good? And the whole crowd is fucking dead. Like I have the whole thing in my head, bro. Shit was crazy.
That's pretty funny.
Yep.
Jamada, did you know the Jax Anderson phenomenon?
No, I was very, very unfamiliar.
Okay, like
Oh,
we,
you haven't
like,
seen it yet?
It must have slid past me.
Oh
But
no!
it sounds as bad as I imagine it. Whenever we get like, you know, when you have like gaming
worse.
conventions,
It's so much worse. It's so much
is
worse.
it?
It's so much worse.
How can it be what? Like, because in my head, it's like gaming
what? It was like
no,
one of the most cringe things of all time. Like, what do you mean? It's
okay,
not like
no, because in my head, right, it's like when we have gaming conventions, like before, like they nuked E3, and then they'll just randomly bring on like a celebrity that has no
Yeah.
attachment to like and they just make them do a performance, and
It's-
no one
it's-
gives a
it's-
fuck.
it's
Okay,
that
I
level.
have to
It's
tap
that
into this.
level, but at least they're like, it's that level, but it's slightly worse because the celebrities that don't buy in or don't know, they're like, at least they're comfortable with being uncomfortable. The Jax Anderson one, I don't think they knew that it was that bad, and then the reaction was bad, and then they doubled down, and it was bad. Like the DJ Khaled one, like that was a big guy moving, you know? That was like a fat guy touchdown kind of thing, you know? Like that was
Yeah.
fine. Like I think it was bad. It was worse in the stadium. The Jax Anderson one, that was bad just live. I remember watching that live and being like, "Oh, this is going to be an all-timer." And it was an actual all-timer. You know, 6 years later or however many years later.
I
You good,
remember
Detroit?
watching this. I remember watching this, but I've obviously pushed it into the far recesses of my brain to make sure that I didn't remember it.
Oh my god.
Holy shit. Yeah, this is bad. This is really bad. Holy.
All right, someone clip Dom doing it earlier and compare because I feel like Dom did it justice.
I watched that shit 2 days ago. I literally sat on my couch. I'm like, Rachel, do you see this shit?
Oh.
This is when I started being embarrassed of my career right here. This is when I became embarrassed.
Well, top 3 takeaways.
Positive takeaway.
You know, I know there was a lot of high emotions about the APAC merger and everything, depending on what side of that merger you were on. But I think it's been nice to see Flying Oyster show up and perform well at the tournament, right? For better or worse for the Western teams, you can obviously have a lot of critique for the level of, you know, TL and KC on those opening series. Or like today, obviously, in the case of TL. But honestly, if we end up getting some slightly more competitive teams throughout the rest of the year, the internationals from APAC, like I'm totally here for it. So that's a good takeaway for me. You know, if they can actually start to contest more frequently the bottom end of Western teams too, like we kind of saw out of Brazil at Worlds last year as an example, where like, or you know, mechanically they're obviously very there, and I think, you know, Dom, you hammered home a lot throughout this year when we were covering LTA South. A lot of it is more to do with like the macro of a lot of these teams as opposed to the micro now, right? And that's really where the gap needs to be bridged still. So Flying Oyster and their performances, that's a good takeaway. I think kind of in a similar vein to Dom, this tournament has taught us that we could definitely have a better format for this tournament to make this tournament a lot more entertaining. Because I think there is a bunch of promise in having an international tournament here after Split 1/Winter. I don't know what else they could do, like format-wise, because I think the sad fact of the matter is there's only so many implications you can give this tournament, right? Currently, it's if you win, you skip play-ins for MSI, and
Your second team.
Yeah, so sorry, your second team, your second seed that ends up going doesn't have to play in play-ins, which is like, it's a nice to have. But even then, like, for
it's not
some
even nice to have.
Like,
you think
you know what I mean? Yeah, I know.
You think they're like, oh, Gen G is gonna have to skip play-ins? Amazing. Like, they don't give a fuck. They just want to win because like we won an international, you know?
So yeah, it's just I don't know how you change that. Like I don't know what implication you can add, or like just like mentioning it now that makes First Stand have like good, good implications. And then the third, fuck it for me, like seeing top esports. That's seeing top esports just a bit. That's my good takeaway. That's
Yeah, I mean, look,
I'm gonna go down the hater path here for a sec. That's my shit.
real LPL fans hate top esports. Like
Yeah.
all the Chinese fans hate them. Jamada and I hate, like, that's not an LPL team. Like, people are like, why? Like, what are you guys just ditching it? No, top esports has been so consistently fraudulent at international tournaments for so long. It's so hard to have them go. It's like how EU fans feel about Mad Lions, right? Like all the Mad Lions teams that just
Oh,
shat
that
the
is
bed.
such a good comparison. Oh
Yeah.
my fucking god. Yeah,
That's
really
what it
good.
is. It's
It's
how
1 to
EU
1
fans
actually.
feel about Mad Lions.
Yes. Yes.
I think
But
for me, I'll go quick. For me, I think it's been the I'm happy that every team has had their moment. NA beat EU, Kalist and Yike are able to show up and upset top. And so at least like no one leaves being like, fuck, we didn't get to show what we wanted to. So like I think that's been a positive. I think the second positive was despite everything that we like talked about earlier, and this part unfortunately probably won't get clipped. The first part will. The blue wall showing up in Law Park has been fun. And seeing the Korean fans or like Korean KC fans, I'd say. Like that was really cool and really surprising to me because it is a lot of either it reminds me of Chinese fandom when do you remember that Worlds where in New York?
yeah.
And I was like, it's all Chinese fans. I was like, what the fuck? It was kind of like that where I'm like, holy shit, it's French fans, KC fans, European fans. Maybe they live here in Korea and they showed up. They're foreign exchange students. Maybe it is people that flew on in. I don't know, but there is a fandom that has traveled that isn't an LPL team or T1, and that's cool. And after they've kind of figured out here after 4 days, the fandom kind of fit within it. So I think that was pretty. That's been pretty great. And the third thing, damn, what is the third positive thing? The scoreboard. Getting the scoreboard
Jesus
out,
Christ.
let it get his shit on, and it's going to get better. It's going to get better. There it is. Those are my 3 positive things. Let us know what you think about the tournament, positive things about the tournament back home. All right, one more segment to go here, but before we do, it's time to remind you about our friends over at Into the AM. Into the AM makes apparel of all different kinds. I wear some of the clothes, bomber jacket on the broadcast. They've got joggers, my favorite workout shorts, those black workout shorts I've shown you multiple times before, are super awesome. And currently they've got a clearance sale with 70% off the graphic tees. I'm wearing one right here. Boom, Lotus Blossom, I think is the name of it. The sale will last until the 16th of March. This is in addition to the 10% you always save using the code LFN at intotheam.com/LFN. So build back up your wardrobe. Anything you want. Henleys, they got you. Jackets, they got you. Hoodies, they got you. Athletic shorts. They have everything there for you. They've been such an awesome partner. And I'm actually getting my shipment here because they do ship internationally to multiple different countries. So make sure to head on over to intotheam.com. Use the code /LFNLegend. So intotheam.com/LFNLegend to get 10% off your order. And check out the 70% off the graphic tees sale if you're a graphic tee enthusiast. They've got a lot of different designs. It feels very soft. It is again something that I use on the daily. So thanks to our friends over at Into the AM, and we only give you stuff that we use. I'm telling you, this one's another doozy that I love to use. All right, final one, keeper kick, NA versus EU round 2, and now they don't even have to like go up against each other for it. Who you keeping? Who you kicking for the rest of the tournament? Is it Team Liquid or is it Karmine Corp? Let's get into it. All right, Dom. Karmine Corp or Team Liquid, can they get their shit together? And you can be like, where are they at now? Who has the highest potential? Who do you want to see? All those different things. How do you make your argument?
There's one right
It's
answer.
simple for me. It's simple for me, man. Like, I am going to keep TL because they just beat KC. That's it. Like, if KC wanted to be here, they just needed to win. Like, I agree that, yeah, it looks like KC is more competitive at this point, but part of being in a competition like this is you have to just beat the teams that you should beat. You have to beat the teams that are like, supposed to be worse than you, and you have to be able to be a favorite and an underdog. If you're a team that can only perform when you're the underdog and there's no pressure on you, like, I don't consider that as like some like insane quality. It's like, oh, I mean, also, it's like they did win a game versus Hanwha Life. I get it. They were down 3 in Hibs. They should have got 2-0, but they did play better. Like, I could understand all these points. I just really dislike the fact that people are treating it like KC didn't do this to themselves. It's like no one fucking forced them to lose to CFO and Team Liquid. They could have just beat the teams they should have beat, and then they would have just got in, right? So everything was fine for them. I just dislike the idea that oh, they're so unlucky because of anything. Like, no. They're not unlucky. Like, they deserve the placement that they're probably going to get. And I do agree that they were playing better when there was less pressure, but you need to just be better than that if you want to go far in these internationals. And, recently Europe just hasn't been better than that in the majority of the internationals. They've always lost to teams that they should beat. That's been a consistent theme. And I think that there is a problem with playing under pressure when it comes to like these LEC teams these days. Whereas if you look at old LEC teams, yeah, I mean, they would sometimes lose to Fangfu, Buffalo, but they took care of business, right? Like G2 would take care of TL in the finals in 2019. They ran them 3-0. Like, they were able to perform when it matters. So yeah, I just think that people have went like kind of baby mode on KC, where they're like, oh my god, poor them, it's so unlucky. It's like, just win your fucking games, and then we just don't end up in the situation.
Yeah. Actually, I have one more photo to share. Go ahead, Jamada. Who you got?
What
do you got?
I'm keeping KC, man. Look, I think that this TL lineup is getting real close to being tired. To me, the only fun thing to watch about this roster right now is the bot lane. So I'm looking at KC as just a higher like ceiling team as of right this second. Now, 100%, I'm there with you, Dom. They should have just got their shit together and won those first couple of games. But there's a lot of inexperience, especially out of the carries, right, between Vladdy and Kalist on the international stage. So I'm happy to give them this leeway for this tournament. And I would expect out of this tournament, assuming they finish top 2 in spring and they go to MSI, they will have a much better showing, even with more experience under their belt. And I, again, should have just won. Like, could have beat TL. Depending on where you now rate retrospectively, CFO should be beating CFO. 100%. Cool. There. But look, I think that the ceiling is an important thing to me. And I think that KC is a team of squeezers. They love like
Squeezes.
Yeah, thank you. That's accent. I can't help it. Players like Kalist, he wants to play on the line. He wants to like really min-max, and he got punished. He's been punished like a lot, right? G2 did it in the first series and domestically. HLE did it in their series today, especially the game 3 with the Draven pick, right? They really, really, really bent him over when he was just again towing the line. He's a habitual line stepper when it comes to where he should and shouldn't be. And Vladdy has had very on games and he's had very off games. And I think if he's more consistent than Case, he also would have looked a lot better. And then need I talk about Yike's first series of first stand, right? It was fucking horrendous. So I'm still willing to keep KC over TL simply because I'm looking at this as a beyond the first stand thing as opposed to here and right now. But I can definitely understand, wanting to keep TL. I get it. You're American. You've got to rep the set. No problem, bro. But I'm there for KC. I think that this team has showed exceptional growth throughout the year, shown exceptional promise, and they are still yet to realistically find their ceiling. I think that they're just going to keep on getting better and better. I'm keeping KC.
All right, great. That was great analysis, Jamada. Light, pull up the pictures. I need the evidence. Pull it up now, please. Thank you.
This is why I hate being European on an American show.
Do you want this? Or do you want this, baby?
True.
That's my boy. That's the general. He came back after years of being away and gets to do his signature pose in front of the fans where he holds a 46% win rate. And it was a great moment. And I
Wait,
believe
does he hold a 46% win rate in front of those fans?
it's probably
It's
something
low.
like that, bro.
It's
I
got to
just
be
I just
worse
pulled
than
up
that.
some number.
Okay,
No
it's
way.
got to
It's
be worse.
not, it's not worse than that. I pulled something up like that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, man. Oh, I took that picture of Targamas on my phone of the TV during the press conference, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's the stare." That was after the CFO game, man. It's not quite fair, but I'm telling you, when Umpty does look, the fact that Umpty just did it, and he doesn't smile, he doesn't do it. He's like, "This is me." Like, I love that. There's like so many compilations of him doing the pose as a bro. Like he starts it as a bro guy, and then when he does the thing, it cut to the TL guy. I was like, oh shit, that's the general. And we got like not gonna lie, like we got duped because he only got to do it once. But my man wants to beat the LCK team so bad. He wants to prove that it wasn't just a fluke so bad. And I feel like he's got yet another opportunity to do it in front of the home crowd here. Either that pressure is going to make him a diamond today or it's going to crush him. And he's already been crushed. You know what I mean? Like
I'm taking the latter.
he's already had like the bad games. Give me the diamond today. So
I mean, Jesus,
there we
that
go.
Vi was so umpty. That was the most
Yeah,
umpty
it was.
thing I've
Him
seen.
being in the Wolves and then get spotted, and there was still like half a second where he didn't realize he was spotted because he was clearly looking at like the Ezreal or whatever, and then he like
was
panics
very
and then
umpty.
punched and then flashed over and hit this. Yeah, I was like, this is a mess. This is a fucking mess.
I mean, when
But,
umpty like panics, you could it's like the most crazy shit. It's like the Skarner play. Like there's times where he's just like freaking out clearly in a fight, and it just the thing is normally when people like freak out, they kind of like AFK a bit, but he just starts going like so insanely hard. It's like, oh my god, he's here, he's there, oh, he's ulting them, he's flashing. Like it's just like so crazy to watch umpty like have a panic moment. It's kind of based. I mean, it is content, but it's like I wish I didn't like want him to do well. If I didn't want him to do well, then maybe it would be like different.
Yeah. All right. Well, there it is. That is this week's episode of Power Spike, our mid-tournament check-in with First Stand. We will have the results and all that covered at the end of it. Best of luck to all the teams. Very interesting kind of thing where we're doing a mid-tournament check-in where we don't have the next stage like done, but I kind of like it like that. We're leaving it on a cliffhanger, and we'll get to look back clearly on either our genius or delusion on some of our predictions. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Go check out all of our sponsors that we've done with Turtle Beach, Mando, and Into the AM, and check in next week for more content. If you're like bored at home and you want a deeper analysis of the series, Dom's doing his co-stream. Make sure to lurk on in there and support your boy. Until then, have a great weekend, and we'll see you at the end of First Stand.